If Donald Trump loses the 2020 election and is able to convince his followers that the election was stolen or rigged to make him lose, will sheriffs show up to guard him in the White House? Check this out. And don't forget to subscribe and leave your comments. Trump appears to envision mass right-wing violence against the left. 2 days ago, he told Breitbart, "It's so terrible what's happening. You know, the left plays a tougher game. It's very funny. I think that the people on the right are tougher. I can tell you I have the support of the police, the support of the military, the support of the bikers for Trump. I have the tough people, but they don't play it tough until they get to a certain point, and then it would be very, very bad." So, which raises the question, and one that I'm very curious about, is, you know, how this all might play out if Donald Trump loses the election and enough people in America believe, or there's any evidence, in fact, that the election was stolen from him. On the line with us is Sheriff Richard Mack, the founder of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. That's CSPOA.org that Bruce Wilson mentioned in his, he said they're connected to Donald Trump. The board of directors of Oath Keepers Movement, oathkeepers.org, and the former sheriff of Graham County, Arizona. Sheriff Mack, welcome back to the program.
Well, thanks, Tom. Appreciate being back with you.
It's always fascinating talking to you, sir. I am, and your Twitter handle, by the way, if people want to reach you, is Sheriff Mack, M-A-C-K. Sheriff Mack, if this scenario were to play out, if Donald Trump were to lose the 2020 election, I mean, right at this moment, about half of Americans, there was just this survey published this morning suggesting that about half of Americans are starting to doubt Robert Mueller's truthfulness, and he hasn't even issued his report. This is, you know, the consequence of this these unrelenting attacks on Mueller coming out of the White House, out of Fox News, out of right-wing radio. If that echo chamber, that giant right-wing echo chamber, was able to convince a lot of Americans that the election had been stolen from Donald Trump, and Donald Trump reached out and said, hey, you know, military, police, bikers, sheriffs, come surround the White House, help me, protect me, what do you think would happen?
Well, you know, when I ran for office, one of the rules was never to talk about hypotheticals. But seeing how I'm not running for office, why not? And this whole narrative began from a convicted liar that the Democrats used to hate, but now they love him because he's turned on Trump. And that's Cohen, who has already been convicted of lying to Congress, who is going to prison for lying. And now we all want to take him so seriously, like everything he says is true. And yet that still ignores the hypocrisy and the violence of the left, who during the past few years have been extremely violent. At Cal Berkeley, when a right-wing person wanted to speak, of course, they go and burn the buildings down and have riots in the streets, very similar to Ferguson and Baltimore and other places where it went crazy, and also ignores the words and warnings from one Hillary Clinton, who says, we will not be civil unless you agree with us and unless you're on our side and do what we say. So I think that there's rhetoric from both sides that has been extremely out of line, but I will tell you that you're speaking to the most peaceful man on the face of the planet, and that is me. I never advocated violence, even though the SPLC has lied about me and even calls me a domestic terrorist. There could be nothing further from the truth. I have never committed any act of violence, even the whole time I was a police officer, whole time I was sheriff. I absolutely abhor violence, and I abhor what's going on between the Democrats and Republicans, and they're both at fault. I really detest the comments made by President Trump regarding the news media and that there should be an investigation on them. Obama was also very anti-media in some regards and even arrested Cheryl Atkinson. And so he doesn't have a good record on that. Hillary does not have a good record. So,
Sheriff Mack, we're kind of wandering far afield here. My question essentially was, you know, Donald Trump seems to be of the opinion that if he doesn't get his way, essentially, that if he loses the election in 2020, or if he's impeached for that matter, that he may be able to get people to come to the White House and defend him. You're saying that you would not join that crowd, from what I understand. But do you think
I would not join it.
Right. Do you think that others would? I mean, the last conversation we had was a couple of weeks ago where we found that, the majority of sheriffs in the state of Washington, like 4/5 of the sheriffs in the state of Washington, many of them members of your organization, CSPOA.org, are refusing to enforce gun control laws in that state that were passed by the people of the state of Washington.
But I don't understand why you don't believe in that sort of civil disobedience. Because first of all,
I'm fine with civil disobedience, Sheriff. I'm not trying to relitigate that. We already had that conversation. What I'm saying is that we see sheriffs right now who are saying, I'm not going to do what the law says. And so, if Trump were to,
they are following the law. You act like the Bill of Rights is not the supreme law of the land.
Okay, well, if the election was stolen from Donald Trump, and to the satisfaction of the majority of Republicans, you could absolutely believe that it was stolen. What would happen?
Elections have been stolen in America before. I mean, Hayes got elected because they formed a committee, and because there was one more Republican. That's the reason he won, and that's way back at the beginning of the 20th century. And LBJ stole the Senate race in Texas, and these things have happened before. It does not mean that the rest of us are going to act like a bunch of lunatics and create violence. Nixon pitted the CIA against the FBI. Nixon actually made some overtures that he was going to use the military to defend his position and make sure he stayed in. And after the impeachment thing came up, he decided to do the right thing and leave. So these things are not new, and certainly Trump did not make any of this up. But, speculation about that happening, I do not believe the sheriffs would rise up and defend him, although he's had some good connections with sheriffs in this country. I've been trying for 2 years to meet with Trump to, as you'll recall, issue a pardon for Sam Girard. And you even said on your show at the very end, free Sam Girard. Well, the reason he's there is because Obama administration went after people like this who should not be in prison. And prison reform should start with not having innocent people in prison, especially an Amish farmer from Kentucky.
So and Donald Trump already pardoned Dwight and Steve Hammond, the guys who took over the
love to see that.
wildlife
Yeah,
refuge.
I love to see that. They were innocent, and they were on our list. And Cox and Kettler from Kansas are also innocent. But there's so many people that are in prison that should not be in America. And I also don't believe in the drug war and putting potheads in prison, which we've done extensively. And let's face it, the drug war has been an excuse to create a police state in America. And I'm against all of that, and I have been for a long time.
Yeah.
That's why I say I am a peaceful person. I want peace in this country. And Trump needs to scale back on the rhetoric, especially aiming an investigation at any of the media. I don't care how bad. I don't like CNN, but I'll still be interviewed by CNN. I don't trust a lot of the media, but I still do not believe the president should be getting involved with that.
Yeah. So I think on a lot of issues, I'm pleased that you and I, Sheriff Mack, can have reasonable conversations about these things, and I'm also pleased to hear that you don't think that the members of this organization, CSPOA, would rise up if Donald Trump called them to. That's fascinating.